And
And
the
that's,
correctional officer, what attracted you to
yeah.
that? Because you have to deal, what, you would work in prison? In a prison?
Yeah, good question. Maybe my mental instability. I don't really know what made me think of going to be a correctional officer. I actually was going to be a correctional officer at level 5 prison, where you go to boot camp for 2-3 months, whatever it is. They tase you, they pepper spray you. And towards the, like, they had me waiting for so long. So I'm like sitting there like, oh no, this is actually kind of scary because it's an all males prison. It's a level 5, one of the biggest in Georgia. I don't know if I really want to get pepper sprayed. To kind of go to your second point of studying, this is an interesting question because I don't really do like solvers and GTO and all this stuff that maybe some of you guys do as more of like professional players. There's a couple of reasons for that. One, I work full time. I'm extremely exhausted when I get off. I don't know that I have the mental capacity to be doing that every single night, to be quite honest with you. Second, I don't own a computer, so it makes it more difficult to look at all that stuff. And thirdly, I'm actually not a huge believer in the GTO solver strategy, specifically with the group of people we play with. I just think that in a lot of hands, if I think back in a lot of hands I've played, if I had played them how GTO tells you how to play them, I think I end up losing the hands.
Have you ever had that experience when somebody belittled you, a man belittled you at the table?
Oh yeah, and I would love to call that person out. That's the person I'm going to call out. But yeah,
Bang, bang.
I think the thing
It was me.
Send it.
Yeah, I think the thing that makes people or women a little bit fearful is when you're with a bunch of men, you see how they've acted on social media. You see how like things that they said. Like if I go on a sports post right now, you go to any sports post, and if the NBA post is about the WNBA, go in the comments. Everything's about, oh, they should be in the kitchen. Like you see that kind of stuff, and it's still real. So when you go, and by the way, it's a lot of older men that are usually playing, and those men have even more of those kind of viewpoints.
As we're live, we have an interesting show today. I'm your host, Carl Mann. We have Ashley Spring as our guest. She's a local crusher. She's a tough cookie. We have Lana Nestor, professional hairstylist and local grinder, also tough. We're going to get to know them. We have Shane, the human solver, staple on the show. What's up, guys? How you doing?
Good.
Good.
What up?
Ashley, let's hear a little bit of background. We're going to learn about you today because usually you're dialed in when you're at the table. We haven't talked much, like, to know about your personal life. We're going to figure all that today. Give us a little bit of background, how you started with the game. What year was that? Did you start dabbling in cash, tournaments? Let's hear it.
Okay. So I actually am from Florida, but I went to college in Georgia. I know I don't look like it right now, but I used to be an athlete back in my day. So I went to college, played soccer at a school in Georgia. Once I graduated, which was in 2019, I actually was going to be a correctional officer at a level 5 prison there in Georgia. Applied, got everything, was waiting for the documentation to go through. It was kind of taking a long time because it has to go through the state and stuff. So as I was waiting, someone asked me if I wanted to go play this poker called 5th Street Poker with them. Now, I don't know if you guys know, but in Georgia, there's no casinos. Gambling's illegal. So it was free. So I was like, okay. I knew like a tiny bit about poker because I think I tried Zynga when it was like popular on the App Store. But I knew like what a pair and 2 pair was. But I remember I actually downloaded a picture on my phone before we went of what beat what because I was a little unsure. But yeah, we went. I played. It was obviously free. I will say it was a tournament style. However, it's just weird because if you buy drinks or food at the bar, let's say $10 worth, they give you 10,000 in chips. So everyone has uneven. Yeah, everyone has uneven playing stack. So it's the definition of free poker.
Was it
So based on how much you? Sorry, Shane. So based on how much you spend, you get chips?
Well, you all start with a certain amount, but you can get more by spending money at the bar, yeah.
Go ahead, Shane. What were you going to say?
You said it was called 5th Street Poker. Is that like a whole different game, or is it just Texas Hold'em?
No, it's Texas Hold'em. It's just,
Okay.
It was like the league name.
Oh, gotcha.
5th Street Poker that like hosted it. So yeah, we went there, tried it, and obviously, like, I'm super competitive. Once I graduated, I kind of lost that competitiveness I was used to from sports. So I was interested. I was intrigued. Again, I wasn't working at the time because I was waiting for things to be processed. So during my free time, I started watching, like, those reruns of WPT they put on there from years ago, and they just have them playing all day. I would watch that, and I slowly started to realize, wow, like, those players are really bad compared to, like, what it looks like we're supposed to play like. So they held those weekly, by the way, every day of the week. So I would go there every night and play, and I would just continue to do that for a few months. Was watching poker, so felt like I was starting to kind of understand more of, like, the basics or understanding of the game at a little bit of a deeper level. And after a few months of doing that, honestly, I was just getting so tilted because I was like, these players are so bad. And of course, like, they're calling with any two cards. I have aces and they're cracking it with 5-4 offsuit, whatever. So it came a point, I would say, like 6 months later, that I was just like, I don't want to play this anymore. At that time, I was working full time. And I actually went to Cherokee a couple times. That was the local casino. It was like a 2.5-hour drive for me, but that was the local casino. So went to Cherokee a couple times, played 1-2 cash, went there by myself, would drive back. I would have like an 8-hour session because obviously I only went, once every 2 or 3 weeks.
You gotta make it worth it.
Yeah, so played 1-2 cash a few times. And then my aunt gave me the opportunity to move to Tampa with her. That was in 2021, September of 2020, or excuse me, 2020, September of 2020. So obviously then I was closer to Hard Rock and kind of started picking it up there.
I have a couple questions. First of all, you said correctional officer. That's a tough job for a female. What attracted you to that, first of all? And second, I have a question about the poker league that you were playing. What was the setup in the poker bar? Like, was it they had actual tables, like tournament tables, when they played on they had tournament tables?
Yeah. So I'll answer the second question first. So yeah, it was actual tables, but the players were the dealers, and whoever dealt actually got like an extra 5,000 in chips or something like that as like a thank you for dealing. So I obviously didn't deal initially, but once I started understanding the game more, then I would deal as I'm playing. And yeah, that's kind of how we ran it. But yeah, so it was actual poker tables. They were set up. There was like pool tables on one side and then like the poker tables on the other side.
And the correctional officer, what attracted you to that? Because you have to deal, what, you would work in prison? In a prison?
Yeah, good question. Maybe my mental instability. I don't really know what made me think of going to be a correctional officer. I actually was going to be a correctional officer at level 5 prison, where you go to boot camp for 2-3 months, whatever it is. They tase you, they pepper spray you. And towards they had me waiting for so long. So I'm like sitting there like, oh no, this is actually kind of scary because it's an all males prison. It's a level 5, one of the biggest in Georgia. I don't know if I really want to get pepper sprayed. But they were taking so long. I was like, I need a job. So I ended up actually being a correctional officer at a juvenile, which oftentimes people say it's actually worse because kids,
no respect.
They just prison. They're in there for 30 years. A lot of them are calm, chill. Juvenile, they go in there, the class, just think of all the class clowns in one area. So yeah, I went through like a boot camp or whatever. I think honestly, I just saw it on Indeed and I was like, seems cool. So I did it.
Pays well?
Not really, no. Good benefits because of the state, but it actually did not. Its salary was not that great, 12-hour shifts. That's part of the reason why I left, but ultimately the reason why I ended up leaving, my lieutenant was super sexist, made my life living hell, did not have my back in any capacity, and I felt I was in danger by continuing to stay there because the kid that we called him the youth, but the youth would do and say what they wanted and he wouldn't back me up. So I ended up leaving. A week later, there was a riot. Another female officer who I graduated with ended up getting into a coma because she ended up hitting her head. So glad I ended up leaving. But yeah, at one time I was a correctional officer.
Okay. Another question is, you said athlete. What sports did you play?
So soccer my entire life. I was a goalkeeper in college. And they actually opened a lacrosse program while I was there. So I played lacrosse too. So soccer and lacrosse in college.
So you have that competitive edge in you. Did that translate into poker? You saw the competitive aspect of poker and that's what attracted you to the game? Or was it the psychological aspect, the math aspect?
Yeah, I think definitely competitiveness. I think I lost a little bit of that when I left college. I was used to playing sports my entire life. So not having that was a little bit weird. So having something to kind of hold on to that was competitive, I think, is a big reason why I liked it. And then I've always just liked strategy, right? Like there's a strategy to the game. I've always liked Sudoku and strategy. It's not really strategy, but you get what I'm saying, like thinking games like that.
Puzzle.
Yeah, like puzzle games, strategy.
Puzzle
I've always
solving.
liked those. Yeah, I've always liked those kind of games. So I think both of those combined were what attracted me.
Were you a gamer at any point? You played video games?
I do play video. I still play video games. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's the latest game you played?
I am a very repetitive person. I play Warzone over and over and over.
That's what I was doing
Yeah.
before you called me.
There you go.
Okay.
That's why you were
You-
MIA.
Yeah, I was in a group with other buddies. Yeah,
Yeah, we thought you dropped out on us for a
Yeah.
I
second.
forgot. Yeah, sorry.
You mentioned sexist. We're gonna bring that up later as it relates to poker. But let's.
Can I ask that
Sure.
question? How old were
Sure.
you when you started working at the correctional?
2019, so probably around like 22,
Wow,
22, 23. Yeah,
that's insane.
I was young.
We're gonna pull up the Hand Mob and go through it and talk about your biggest score, which is way
Okay.
bigger than my biggest score.
Anytime I'd have
monkey-
like a recreational friend kind of like ask about poker, I'd always compare it to puzzles to them too. Like each hand is just like a tiny little game or a puzzle that you get to solve.
Try to figure
Yeah.
out. Yeah,
Like that
exactly.
analogy.
Okay, this is the Hand Mob throughout the years. You got 2021. You start dabbling here, 30K, which is not bad for a start. Sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead, Lana.
No, I didn't say anything.
2022, 214K. That's a nice year. And that's when you had your
Mhm.
biggest score. Let's look at
Yep.
that real quick. Walk us through that event. Any low points, any high points where you like chip leading, where you short stacked the whole way? You got third place for 150K. You guys,
Yeah.
I think, got a deal. We were talking about it. I
Yeah.
was eating with a couple guys, and they mentioned this deal. Matthew Higgins got second. Adam Quimby. I don't know these. Matt Higgins sounds familiar, but
I know
anyway.
Matt.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I got a lot of I don't want to say a lot, but a few people gave me shit about the deal I made, which going back, looking at it, I made a bad deal. But in the moment when you're playing for life-changing money, I wasn't even really thinking about it. I was just like, I see this prize in front of me. I'm like, this is crazy. But yeah, I actually was never a big stack. I was always average, maybe below average, kind of just stayed in the middle and worked my way up. But that event is actually the first tournament I ever played. If you go back, look, my very first tournament, I got 10th place in that tournament, my very first one for like, I don't know, 20,000 or 21,000. So
That's crazy.
I played it the next year and then I got third in that same event. But yeah, it was crazy. I just stayed average stack the entire way. Towards like, final three tables, it starts getting a little bit more real. And it was crazy. I was texting like my family and stuff throughout it. But yeah, I know people on here, whoever are listening, are gonna be like, you made a bad deal. Yeah, I know I made a bad deal, but I did it in the moment. If I could go back and change it, I would. I'll know for next time. But when you're kind of faced with that opportunity for the first time ever in your life, you do what you do.
I remember.
Sorry, go ahead.
Right after, we weren't even like, we'd never really talked, but I think you just like asked me, you're like, is this a good deal or not? Like weeks later or months later, I was just like, let me see. And then I was like, I don't think it's that great, but like, it's a huge score no matter what. You can't be like upset. I think there's different mindsets. If you're like a try hard like Reg, whose like whole life is poker, then you might recognize that you gave up like a little bit of EV. But if it's just your biggest score and like it means like the world to you, then like the EV doesn't matter.
Especially it's the biggest score by a margin. If you were like playing and you had like 70, 80K score, like a couple of them a year, and then you have the 150K score, yeah, but your scores were like 2K, 3K, and all of a sudden you're getting 15 stacks, 15 bands. You're not thinking about how much you lost, like maybe 20K, you think? Like if you guys did ICM, it's not that big of it.
The payout was, I still remember because I feel like it haunts me, but the payout was 138 and I took 150.
So 12K.
Okay.
That might be like
Lesson
20
learned.
maybe. Then,
We
yeah,
all make
quick.
mistakes. Lesson
Yeah.
learned. It's not that big of a
You
deal.
had
Lesson learned.
21 bigs, and then like the other two had like 80 and 90, something like that.
I had I think like 9 big blinds. I was like super short stack, which is
Oh,
also why I kind of felt like, yeah, do
not too
whatever.
bad
Like
then. I thought you had
I'm
20.
like, yeah, Matthew
Not
and
bad.
I think what was the other game? Adam. I mean, they were like piles, and I was like super short. But
Yeah.
So that's your biggest score. It's pretty respectable. And then was there last year 14K? Was there a dream to be a poker professional and it be your sole income, or you always want to have an income on the side?
yeah, I mean, it's always a dream if I made enough money to kind of support me for a year or two without having a job, then I would probably maybe do it. But I don't think that's ever going to be the case. Honestly, even thinking about it kind of stresses me out, to be honest. Having that second or my main income is super important, not only just for the income, but benefits. Like Shane, I know you and I have kind of talked about that. Having benefits, I have a 401k. My company right now matches. So those things also you have to kind of take into consideration. But I've gone through plenty of downswings. Last year I didn't play all that much, which is why it's only 14,000. And I didn't play that much because I was going through so many downswings, and it's very mentally challenging for someone who's extremely competitive to just keep doing that over and over and over and over again. So I think I'll always have, my main source of income and let poker be kind of the hobby.
What's the main source of income now?
I am a performance manager for a company. My team of agents sell Medicare supplement plans. So they help Medicare recipients. We also do like standalone dental and vision plans. So if anyone listening is a Medicare recipient needs help, let me know. But yeah, I just run a team of agents that sells those policies.
Nice.
Yeah.
Talking about downswings, let's first of all, what's your mental prep? Like you're going for a multi-day, like the series, like the one coming up or the one that just passed at Hard Rock.
Yeah.
What's the mental prep? Is there a ritual? You do cardio? Anything? Is there a supplement you take? What's the mental preparation? Yoga? I know Lana does yoga. We'll talk about it with you, Lana, too. You're both even keel at the table, like when you take beats and stuff. But Ashley, let's hear it from you. What's the mental prep, and how do you deal with beats at the table in the short term and downswing, like long downswings?
Yeah, very uninteresting. I don't do anything special, to be honest with you. I wake up, walk my dogs. I try to eat before I go. Sometimes I don't even do that, depending on if I'm running late or not. I'm someone that likes to start on time, so I try to be there on time. So if I'm, ahead of schedule, I try to get a breakfast in. If not, then on the first break, I'll go grab like an Uncrustable or something. But I don't really do much. Honestly, I try to sleep in as late as possible because I know it could potentially be a super long day. And then, when I'm at the table, I always pretty much only drink water usually just to stay hydrated throughout the day. But other than that, just chill with my dogs before I head out.
Lana, what's the ritual, and how much yoga helps being even keel at the table? Do you do yoga before a session, the day before?
It's not planned. I mean, I typically do yoga 1 to 2 times a week. It does help, like when you get into even just life, like hard spots. It helps you stay calm. I still struggle with that. You say I'm even keeled at the table, but I still have my moments where I come in.
This is what we see. At least this is what we see. What's going on
Yeah.
inside is a different thing.
Oh yeah, like I'm cussing someone out in my head. Easy. But like I'll tap the
Standard.
table, say good game. I'm not gonna act classless at the table. But no like ritual. I just generally try to just be healthy. You'll see me run to the bathroom constantly when I'm playing because I'm constantly drinking water. You'll see me right before a break. I'm at the cafe ordering a chicken quesadilla before the line gets long because I can't be on an empty stomach. But just generally, like nothing special. I just generally live a pretty somewhat healthy lifestyle.
It's a huge, I think it has a huge impact at the table because, you know, being comfortable with you, like being healthy is a big plus at the table.
Well, can I just say one more thing? Like,
Yeah.
Ashley, like, you know, you talked about like grabbing like a crustable, whatever. Like, when I was your age, I would do that too and be fine and no problem. But like as you get older, like I have to eat. I have to have, you know, I have to be hydrated or it doesn't bode well.
You know what I've been doing lately? No food throughout the
Fasting.
7-8 hours fasting during
Yeah.
play, and it keeps me focused the whole. Maybe it gets me moody towards the end a little bit.
Mhm.
I always keep IQ bars in my pocket. It's
Mhm.
very low carb, so it doesn't spike your insulin that bad. It's like 12 grams of carbs,
Yeah.
and maybe I eat like a bite towards the end, so I don't get too moody. But as far as cussing people, yeah, that's happening on the regular for sure.
Yeah.
So downswings, how do you deal with downswing? Are you studying more? Are you talking with somebody? Because this game will make you question everything sometimes. When nothing is going your way, you can't really scoop a pot. Are you talking about studying? What does studying look like, Ashley, for you?
Well, I'll answer the first question first, and then I'll talk about what I do. But for downswings, I actually think this is one of the part of my games that has probably gotten better in the last couple of years than any other aspect. I'm just, if you know me personally, I'm very fiery, I'm very passionate, I'm very emotional. I like to win. I don't like to lose. It could be any sort of game. It could be my job. It could be anything. So losing really bothers me, and obviously in poker that's inevitable. But I used to get just so angry and like upset and like I want to go back right now and play again. But the person that I talk to the most, you'll probably hear me talk about her a couple of times because it's like my poker bestie. She listens to everything I say. Is Nicole. She's kind of like my outlet. But for dealing with downswings, I've learned to take a break. I did not used to do that, which is why I didn't play as much last year for a couple other reasons as well. But I was like, I'm going to take time off. I'm not going to force myself to play when I'm feeling like I'm forcing myself to make moves I probably shouldn't be making because I just want to like get in the money and things like that. So that's what I've learned to do is just, it's okay to take time off. It's difficult. I want to play, but I know if I'm not in the right mindset, then I should just not play. So that's what I do. Have been
Shout
doing
out to
for
Nicole, by the
downswings.
way. She was supposed to co-host, but she bailed out on us. Terrible, Nicole. No, we're gonna get her on the show next time.
Yeah.
But she
Oh,
had
she's
something
amazing.
come up. Yeah, she is. Do you guys talk strategy too? Do you discuss
We
hands
talk.
and stuff?
Yeah, we talk hand histories. I send her a lot. She's not very good at sending them to me, although I ask her to. She's something she wants to do more, but I think she's an incredible person. I think she definitely is well worth having on here. She listens to me when I complain. No one wants to hear and people whine about bad beats and things like that, but she listens, responds, and I do vice versa for her. So yeah, I just love her. But yeah, we do talk about hand histories. If any of you guys ever want to talk about hand histories, I love reading hand histories. I just like to think about or see how people think about the game. So to kind of go to your second point of studying, this is an interesting question because I don't really do like solvers and GTO and all this stuff that maybe some of you guys do as more of like professional players. There's a couple reasons for that. One, I work full time. I'm extremely exhausted when I get off. I don't know that I have the mental capacity to be doing that every single night, to be quite honest with you. Second, I don't own a computer, so it makes it more difficult to look at all that stuff. And thirdly, I'm actually not a huge believer in the GTO solver strategy, specifically with the group of people we play with. I just think that in a lot of hands, if I think back in a lot of hands I've played, if I had played them how GTO tells you how to play them, I think I end up losing the hands, right? Because the people we play against, no one, 1% of people are playing any sort of GTO strategy. So if I play GTO against people who are playing the opposite of GTO, then I just don't think that it works well. So I play
That's a
more
good.
based off my intuition. I watch a lot of poker. That's how I learn. That's my version of studying. I watch live streams. I watch vloggers. I'm subscribed to Poker Go, so I watch them a lot. I watch the Triton series. That is in the mind of a poker pro on YouTube. I watch that, like watching Adrian Mateos. Like to me, that's my form of studying. But anything else, looking at charts and all that, I honestly don't do that.
That's a form of studying, watching Triton, watching what the pros are doing with certain hands and certain spots. That's a form of studying too. You'll be surprised how many intuitive stuff you do at the table is close to GTO. Like a lot of people did the things they did in the 03, 04, or even the 80s are GTO, but they didn't know they're GTO. Now you can look at a spot at it, look, you can see how the solvers play in a certain spot, and it's very close to what you're doing intuitively. But like you're saying, it's not good to study GTO against the players we play against. 100% true. It's always good to know what the solve is, like what the GTO solution is, but it's not always the most profitable, because you said like if you play a spot, based on GTO, you're not going to make the most money or maybe lose money, which is true. I think to make money in Tampa, you got to play exploitative and just see what the players are doing and try to exploit them. And sometimes overstudying can affect your results negatively, because you're overthinking spots. When it's like, it's clear when they overbet river, it's like you got to fold when you have two pair. When you have a spot that's close and they're betting big, like they always have it, because they never show up with, like Shane might show up with like a creative. Like yesterday at Derby, I even told them at the final table, one guy, Egyptian, what's his name? So he's a funny guy. I'll think of his name in a second. He made a, what's his name?
Asif, ASIF?
Not Asif. Anyway, it was a spot. No, not Safe. Safe is, I think, either Pakistani or Indian. But it was a spot blind on blind. He barrels 3 streets and shows up with like ace high. Or it was a creative. It was the only bluff I saw all night by the river. And I told him, I'm like, nobody here bluffs the river. It's always value. Anytime they bet big, so they exploit that. You got to fold. Like no solver is going to teach you that. You just see it. Big bet on the river, fold, even if you have a strong. I did it last time with Lana was at the table. I flopped 2 pair. Board was Jack 3-6. I had Jack 3. It was blind on blind, limp pot, Jack 3 suited. Turn was a 5. It goes, I check, he bet, I call. River, he gets a straight. He bets over bet spot. Gladly folded, and he showed me he rivered the straight. He turned open-ended, rivers the straight, bets over bets. It was David Meager. Shout out to David. Fold. So little exploits like that. But it's always good to know. It's good to know GTO. Doesn't mean it's going to make you like print money. Intuitive play is always going to be superior. Anyway,
a couple things on that too. I think
sure, send it.
I think in terms of all the strategies, the spot that gets like spewed off the most is blind versus blind. And it's just kind of a function of both people having like a ton of hands. The under the gun guy doesn't have like a ton of hands, but when like small blind limps in, like he's got like 75% of like all the hands in the game. So for sure, if there's gonna be a spot where some people like just have like dumbass shit, it's gonna be in like the blind versus blind hands. Even still,
100%.
When people bet big on the river, they have it. I agree.
Most spazzes, even pros do it sometimes. Just because the ranges are too wide, blind on blind, the most mistakes happen there because nobody gives you credit. You'll open, they start 3-betting, 4-betting. The stacks are in like 100 big blinds deep in a very marginal spot. That's why I try versus a fish. I try to keep the pot as small as possible because there's no need to play like 100 big blind pot in a marginal spot. Talking about small blind, big blind, I got a hand set up. I told Ashley and Lana about the hand, but I'll set it up with you, Shane. It's Triton Poker. It's a 500K buy-in, I believe. It just happened a few days ago. It's between Chidwick and Texas Mike. I'm sure you're familiar with Chidwick. I don't know if you know Texas Mike. He plays on the stream
he lost
in Texas.
Like $2 million or something. Yeah, I saw him.
Oh, you know who? Okay, you know who that is.
So he just won the Poker Go tournament today.
He's a whale too.
I think he won that one we're talking about. Probably he was like chip leading the whole way.
Well, the one that they had today, they have a Poker Go tournament going today, and he just got first place.
Wow, was it a Triton or Poker Go?
No, it's Poker Go. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, both crushers. It goes limp, small blind, big blind. Flop is 2 clubs, 10 high. Texas Mike has Jack 10 off. We don't know which small blind. We don't know I'm not going to tell you Chidwick's hand. That's where we're going to discuss strategy. Chidwick, it goes bet call on the flop, 10 high. It was 10-7-3, 2 clubs. Texas Mike has the jack of clubs. We don't know Chidwick's hand. Turn is an ace. Texas Mike continues barreling because,
Probably supposed to check.
it's a check. Solver's checking that turn, but just because blind on blind, like Chidwick's range is literally anything. It's like 100% range because it's a limp pot. He can have literally anything. It's not defined at all. It goes bet, half pot, call again. River is a brick. I think it doesn't complete the flush. It goes check. And Chidwick goes for it, pot size bet. And Chidwick is like Lana says, robot. You're not getting reads on him at all. Texas Mike goes in the tank and decides to fold. We're gonna talk about the spot. Let's watch the hand real quick. Okay.
I think blind on blind is actually, I was just telling Nicole, is one of the areas where I definitely need, if I do any sort of studying, that would be a spot.
Most people are understudying that, but they don't study blind on blind. And it comes up so often. By the way, the stacks, Texas Mike is deep. I think he has like 78 big blinds, and Chidwick has in the 20s, like 22, 23 big blinds. So Chidwick is not that deep. Texas Mike is super deep. And this is the hand.
And, the fact that you just don't know is why he's able to enjoy the deference from even a hand as strong as ace-queen pre-flop out of bads.
Yeah.
Who doesn't lack courage. I've always felt this sense of envy and jealousy with regards to players who actually are able to embrace a laggy profile and live and die by that sword, with regard to how debilitating it can be for their opposition. It's almost not an invincibility cloak, of course. You see them hang themselves sometimes, right?
I think the
But-
limp's super standard.
Playing a
Gotta
lot
love
more
this hand.
Yeah.
forward, if you're playing a lot more snug, your opponents don't always
I've had that happen.
have that fear.
I've always had it happen.
You know what I mean?
against me,
You
though.
get the kind of
like where
place I'm going with that idea, like against a guy like Mike, he enjoys the ability to leverage that personality type while he's out there, or the perception of it at least.
Yeah, there is.
It's hard to prove and exactly.
A lot of times it's more difficult to play against laggy players than tight players.
Giving them
That was a far more succinct and
exactly.
right on the nose sort of point. Mystery hand time now. Chidwick in the big blind, blacked out. Blind versus blind. Monchek actually limped the jack 10, has flopped himself top pair and
we
led
pause this for a
out
sec?
for
I can
175.
get some strat here.
Sure.
There's a couple things. You definitely want to limp a hand like this. Some weak players, or not weak players, some players who haven't looked at this stuff just see 2 Broadway cards and just raise it. Into a 20 big blind stack, you could like raise and then he just jams like every ace on you, just like ace 3 off or something, and then you just like have to fold 10 jack. So limp's great. Flop, a lot of people bet with range. They just like bet 1 big blind all the time, kind of like he's doing, and they can just have like any 2 cards. When you have like top pair and a club, it's definitely great. You want to like put some chips in this pot when the guy has any 2. But Chidwick, when faced with like a 1 big blind bet, is supposed to call any hand that contains a club at all. So it's like, what's the board? 10-7-2 with 2 clubs?
Even raise some of them. Ace of
Yeah.
spade. I mean, ace of club, king of club. He can check.
Yeah,
I
if
mean,
he just has like
raise.
king 2 off with the king of clubs, he's supposed to call. I think so. The 1 big blind bets like print because people aren't really willing to like get super sticky here, and you have to. You're in position. There's 2 clubs on the board. You have 1 in your hand, and he could have like any cards in the deck. Both ranges are super wide, so you're supposed to call every hand that has 3 to a straight and every hand that has 3 to a club. And people for sure miss
100%.
this because they just have like a trash like king 3 off, no pairs, just the king of clubs. But the reason you call these is so that when he checks turn, you bluff turn.
Yeah.
Or you can hit a flush. If he
Well said. Yeah. This is what the solver is doing pre-flop, blind on blind. Look at what jack 10 off, like literally check almost 100%. We're mixing like our suited trash here. at a frequency. It's not 100%. Limping sometimes, raising sometimes. I do that a lot with trash. I just open because I don't want to go to a flop with like 9-3 suited. And we're opening some of the standard opens, the suited broadways, all the ace-x suited too. And it's a mixed strategy. It's like really hard to memorize, but you just got to put it in your head. Like the trash we open, unless you think the big blind is a maniac that's going to like three bet you relentlessly, then keep the pot small and just limp. And if you think the big blind is like a weak passive reg, you just can open a wide range and just play post flop. And no need to bloat. Like you got to have some equity in the hand. I see people go into the river with like zero equity, bloating pots for no reason, especially like we said, blind on blind. And this is what big blind is supposed to do too. Look at big blind. It's like almost all red. When small blind checks, it's opening up all kinds of stuff, all the premium, all the ace-x suited, all the offsuit ace-x, almost everything. Like we can open everything and we can limp.
It's going to be a little different here because, like you said, Chidwick's 20 bigs, not 60.
Yeah.
When you're deep like this, it's going to raise these hands like 7-9 suited because they have a ton of equity. You could hit like straights and flushes. When you're 20 bigs, it's not as merged as this. It's pretty polar. So it'll be like the trash at the bottom and the good shit at the top. But it won't be all this like 7, 8, 8, 9, 9, 10. Those stop raising when you get shallow.
100%. Anyway, let's continue the hand. And I want to ask you guys, Lana and Ashley, what's the strategy in the small blind and big blind? Let's finish the hand.
They showed me like 5 or 6 starting stacks.
Not to imply that laggy players are necessarily better, just that it can be more.
Chidwick just has like queen 8. He should call. If he has like queen 6 with a club, he should call. He should call really wide here.
He can float with ace highs and king highs too, which is sometimes going to be the best hand.
And I figured I didn't need to count because it's like the final table, so it's on stream, and I'm like, I don't need to.
This is when Texas Mike should probably check.
But
yeah, Solver is checking here. Solver is definitely checking ace.
Because like everything's done so well. It's like
Ace on the turn now after the Chidwick flat, which brought the pot to 800.
They know back to the day how many chips are in play.
Now half pot, 400.
Yeah, this is pretty inappropriate.
Mike is still thinking he has the best hand here most of the time.
That's not to say that there aren't ace-x's in the check back range for Chidwick.
Definitely can be. But, he still has top pair, pretty good kicker from the flop, and it's still going to be good most of the time. I mean, Chidwick can have some ace-x, but certainly a decent chunk of those hands would have put more money in pre-flop.
Wow. The one scenario where it didn't matter. It would have been so sick if, like, let's say he gets all in and loses.
So I don't think 4-5 is a concern for Mike, other than 4-5 of clubs, but 8-9 certainly is.
Oh, they did. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that has to be what happened, I guess.
In terms of what Chidwick, our mystery man, can have. And Mike's going to check.
Technically, by the rules, what would happen in that case? If he didn't declare,
I mean, he's basically always winning versus a check back. Very hard for Chidwick to check back a better hand in this line, I would say. Like, maybe if we're pipping it, like Queen 10, still might even value bet. But
well, especially because you don't expect the ace-x to come off the throttle on the river here.
Yeah,
if that's what's lurking.
So exactly, and Chidwick can't really have jacks, queens, or kings, and there aren't that many better 10x. So yeah, that was really the logic behind my statement. It would appear that because this is a mystery hand, Chidwick will in fact bet here. Otherwise, it's not going to be. It's going to be hard for us to guess what he has. But yeah, let's see what size he picks. Wow, that's a very big bet considering
really hard value heavy in my opinion.
The tournament, part of the tournament we're in,
right? And his stack.
Yeah, exactly. It's more.
Let's hear the thought process before. By the way, Texas Mike goes in the tank for a good minute and a half, decides to fold. What's the thought process with the line that Chidwick took? Call flop, call turn, bomb, river. What hands are we putting him on? What's the worst case scenario and best case scenario?
Personally, again, I'm not like Shane. I don't look at all the solver and all that, so I'm sure he has more of like an in-depth way of explaining it. But my strategy, I try to play small ball in the blinds for the most part, just because it can get quickly out of hand for no reason. I think I honestly would probably fold the river if I was in Texas Mike's position. I think Chidwick knows that Texas Mike does have value because I've watched Texas Mike. He is crazy. He has no problem bluffing 3 streets. So when he checks the river, he clearly has something. And
that's a very good point. When he checks river, you know he has showdown, but it's not value. Every once in a while, because these guys are balanced, they would check 2-pair. He would check a straight just because like there's a club draw on board. All the clubs that missed would fire river. Like he knows Chidwick is capable of firing like his missed draws. Let's talk about the Texas Mike's hand. He literally has the worst candidate. He's blocking, like he has the jack. You want Chidwick to have like jack 8, jack 9 that bricked. He has a club. It's blocking the clubs that Chidwick might have. Like he can't have ace jack. He doesn't have premium hands. He might have like jack 8 of club, but these hands would raise flop, I think. Like combo draws, like gut shot with a flush draw might raise. But he might have like a hand like jack deuce of clubs, for example, that would take that line. And I don't even know if Chidwick might bluff a hand with like 2 clubs, might check back. I don't know. What do you think, Shane?
For Mike's range?
Yeah, like the candidate that the holdings of Texas Mike. I think he has the worst candidate to call off that bet just because he's blocking all of Chidwick's give ups.
Yeah, this is the problem that the turn barrel creates. Is like we bet a third on a card that's not good for us, like the ace. Like when we should be like attacking a lot pre-flop, right? Like he's big stack, the small blind is 20. We should raise a lot of our ace X. And then like Chidwick should also raise a lot of his ace X, but he's smart, so he's supposed to check his suited aces, like ace 2 through like ace 8 suited would probably just check. And that way you like have aces for post-flop play. So he can still have more. And when we bet like a third on turn, we're not like gaining any info, and we're not like getting too much worse to call. Like a 7 or a 3 is kind of just gonna know that like double barrel, we're probably behind from like this recreational player. But yeah, I don't think the turn barrel sets up like a good river strat. So you can either like play a block with your 10x and just bet tiny and hope that he like side calls the worst 10x or like a 7. But if you're gonna check, I think it's pretty obvious that you bet twice, you probably have like a hand, and he's just trying to like big bet the river. Chidwick's like just putting a ton out there and just hoping he calls.
I would 100%
I love a block
check
bet.
the turn.
Yeah.
I love
Check
a
the
block
turn.
bet on the river. First, it will make your life easier and decide if Chidwick is going to abuse it and raise, or just put Chidwick in a tough spot. But Chidwick is capable of raising a block bet there. Something you said there about in general, GTO likes to check a lot from out of position. I don't like the line that Texas Mike took by betting flop, betting turn. Like when out of position in general, 85-90% we're gonna check, even if we have value. Like even if you flop top pair, it's nice to take a check call line. Besides that, what do you guys think? Chidwick, value or bluff? Where are you leaning towards?
I'd say value. I mean, he could have literally anything. I think having the club in your hand for Texas Mike is not great. Also, one of you guys said it earlier, but I don't know that he's betting so big with 2 clubs in his hands. I don't know, like 7-3. What was it? 10-7-3. You could have 10-7, 7-3. I mean,
he literally can have
Ace-7.
any 2.
Like
he can have anything because limp pot. He can have any 2 cards. Lana, what do you think? And what's the strategy? Blind on blind normally. What do you employ?
I do a fair amount of, like if I'm in the small blind, I do a fair amount of limping. I also don't like to bloat the pot, blind versus blind. I feel like Chidwick probably has like 2 pair, like an ace 3, ace 7, possibly, or he has like he has a bluff, but I don't think he's bluffing.
Okay, yeah, he could have these hands, 100%. The flop bottom pair, improve to two pair on the turn. It's possible. His bluffs candidates, like what hand called flop, improved on the turn in Brick River that he would take that line with? Like, let's talk about the bluffs. What candidates? Let's look at the board again.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah, some of them get there, like the 4-5 gets there. Like if you had
Right.
4-5
Yeah,
with one
8,
club,
9,
The
you never
yeah.
fold.
the six is a really bad card because it connects the straights. But
Yeah.
by the way, I was gonna give credit to Ali Nejad, #1 commentator right now. Nobody even comes close. And I don't want to hate on Joe Stapleton. His style is like, the comedy. I love listening to Joe
Yeah.
Stapleton. I've always been a fan. But Ali Nejad, the verbiage, the comment, his commentary is next level.
Yeah.
But anyway, so what bluff candidates you think got to the river and decided to blast?
The real ones are supposed to be like 2-4 and 2-5 with a club. I mean, those are like real bluffs. You're at the bottom of your range.
You said
You're
2-4, and what's the other one?
and 2-5. You're probably supposed to
Okay.
call, flop with one club, like a 2-5 with a club. You turn a gut shot, and then like it becomes a river bluff. I don't think Chidwick's doing those to this guy. I wouldn't do it to just like a recreational player. Kind of like when Ash said earlier, like she doesn't do a ton of like GTO study. She doesn't think it's like good in these live tournaments. I totally agree. I think it's like GTO studies for like a super reg versus like a super reg. That's when it's like useful. So that's when you would like float the 2-5, like the trash hand, so that on the river you have bluffs. I don't think Chidwick's looking at this guy and being like, I need to float the 2-5 just so that if he checks river, then I can bluff, and then like we've reached equilibrium. I don't think that's how he approaches this game, because I wouldn't approach it that way. Maybe he does. Maybe he shows up with like a 2-5 or like like a 5-7 that he turns into a bluff.
9-5.
He can turn like his 3x into bluffs too, but it's like what happens if someone double barrels on an ace and I'm just holding like 3-4, like I have the third pair that called flop. I just muck.
I don't think
believe
you would
it.
call turn with 3-4 though. Like
So if
those
we're making
those
these
guys are
adjustments-
those guys are too studied to continue. Like a fish would continue with 3-4 and hope to improve to 2 pair, but Chidwick is not continuing with the. I think Texas Mike bet. Did he bet quarter pot or half? I think he bet half pot
On the turn.
Yeah,
I
he
would
bet
also
big on the
say
turn.
like Texas Mike just has. I mean, if you ever watch him play, I mean, he's just crazy. He plays crazy.
Oh, he's a maniac.
I think,
he's capable of anything, 100%.
Right, but he also like, I just don't know that he really cares. Like, I think a lot of times he calls off a 10 here. I'm surprised he folded, honestly, but I think Chidwick knows that, and I don't think that he's putting pot in on the river in an ICM scenario in a $500,000 tournament against him. Against Texas. I mean, I might be wrong when we see the hand, but I'm like, again, I don't really pay attention to charts on that. It's more of like intuition and playing against the player. If I'm against Texas Mike, I know he does not care about putting money in, regardless if we're on the bubble or if we just started the tournament. I'm not putting in pot against someone when I have 20 bigs. We're on ICM in a $500,000 tournament. Like,
by the way, Chidwick's play reminds me a lot of Jeremy Becker. This is his specialty on the river. When he knows somebody has showdown, but it's not a premium hand, he attacks it almost every time. And Jeremy Becker would probably go all in this spot. I did it last night at Derby. Like the guy block bet on the river, and I had the betting lead. It was bet call check, and he bets like 10% pot. I just went for it and went all in. Like when they bet small, they're just telegraphing that they have one pair hand, like middle pair, bottom pair. You attack it, not every time. Sometimes they call you and like you lose so much. But this spot reminds me of Jeremy Becker. He would do the same thing on the river. The result of the hand. Let's watch it.
More than half of his remaining chips in this part of the tournament. I mean, it's pot, but it sort of represents a larger than pot bet. So I would say we're even drifting into territory where like a bad ace, like ace 5 or ace 8, this might be even a little big for those hands. I think we're starting to talk about like 2 pair plus. So
is 8-9 ever involved?
He's saying bad ace. Bad ace shouldn't polarize like that. Like when you polarize like that, it's air or 2 pair plus.
He's got 2 pair,
It's never mergy. It's never like ace no kicker like what's his name? Just saying like the commentator.
If Ashley's
involved?
Yeah,
right,
so
and he has
definitely
notes
could be.
that Texas Mike just hero calls anything.
But and
then
if
you
he's
can add some,
bluffing,
like, just
what's he
ace X.
bluffing with? He's gonna bluff with maybe something. I don't really see how he has a 6 unless it's with clubs. Maybe like 6, 8 of clubs.
That'd be a good bluff too.
Mike has heaps, by the way. I mean,
Again, you don't want to have club. You want to unblock clubs. You want your opponent to have clubs. Not this. I mean, the 6-8 doesn't block many like the Broadway clubs that missed, but you don't want to have clubs in your hand to bluff. You want to unblock. You want your opponent to have clubs and brick the river. So, but I mean, you can take that line sometimes with clubs, but
1.6 is still.
Bluffing.
Mike has laid down the
Keeping.
10, and he is bluffing, and he's doing it with queen.
Oh, wow.
that's
Wow.
it. Revealed Queen Jack. So he turned a gut shot. He floated with queen high with the club, like exactly like Shane said. Any club should float. King of club, ace of club, queen of club. Turns a gutter, calls the turn. I mean, the turn call was he's literally floating to bluff that. Like he had a plan on the turn that if he hits
Yeah.
a king, it's value. If he bricks, he's gonna go for it. And if a club hits the river, he can also go for it with the queen of club. So the man had a plan the whole way.
Yeah,
Baller.
I just take these differently. I'm in the camp that Ashley recommends, which is like once I have this guy tagged as like wild and like a whale, and that he like doesn't like to fold, I just delete these turn calls. I delete the bluffs. I don't play this game. The way to exploit someone who calls too much is to just value bet more. It's not to just be like super sticky and hope he folds. It's not how I think you should approach it. But I think there's
100%.
a factor of like Chidwick playing at a table with like the toughest players in the world, and like it's being on TV and not wanting to like, oh, you can just run through Chidwick. Like he doesn't even bluff the hands he's supposed to bluff. So there's like some other dynamics, but I think he would probably agree with me in like a vacuum. If you're just like hidden online and you have this guy tagged as like the whale, I think you should probably under bluff him drastically.
Interesting. Yeah, makes sense for sure. I mean, Texas Mike is not a whale. Like he's loose aggressive, but he's not a whale. Like he's pretty balanced too. He knows how to switch gears. He's not like your typical whale.
I think he's a recreational player though.
He is, but he's pretty capable.
At that table, he's the spot.
Yeah, I've seen him. Like, I actually really like his game because I think he's really fun as a viewer. I like his game. I think he's super fun to watch. But I've seen like he'll call off fourth pair on the river. Like he doesn't care.
Oh yeah, for sure. Let's move on to the questions from the chat. You had a lot of questions on that post, by the way. Pretty popular.
Oh, I'm not. I actually don't hardly talk to anyone at Hard Rock, so it's a little shocking.
I don't know. We just found out you're popular. This is okay. Juan Rodriguez, shout out to Juan. She's a great player. Yes. My question is, how can we help in welcoming more females into poker? This is directed at both of you, Lana and Ashley.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of different things I want to say. I'll start with, I know some people have brought up like there needs to be more female tournaments and ladies events. I definitely agree. I think Hard Rock needs to bite the bullet and just do it. Not everything's about money. Not everything's about profits. It's about the bigger picture. So I think they need to get on board with that, because at the end of the day, like Derby can do it, TGT can do it, but it's more impactful. I think we all know it's more impactful if Hard Rock does it. So even if it's once a year, like in the October tournaments, I think twice a year would be fine too. They'll get it, they'll be fine. I think they'll still be up and running if they run a couple ladies events. So I think they need to bite the bullet. But I wanted to talk about something that was a little bit more maybe within our control. We can't really control what Hard Rock does, but we can kind of control us as players, what we do. And I think somewhere that people fall short is they need, like, if you have someone who's a female player, whether it's a friend, spouse, whatever, like encourage them to go. Like you should encourage them to go. In fact, if you have the time, go with them and make them comfortable. And then I think second to that is if you're someone, a male at a table, and you hear another man belittling a woman, whether it's right there in front of her face or it's just talking about in general, you should say something. Like you need to speak up and say something and shut that down. And I don't think that happens a lot.
Hate to interrupt, but question: what do you think hinders a woman from going out to a casino and playing a tournament? Like, what's the major thing that's on her mind that, oh, I don't want to go play today? Like, what's the major hindrance from playing poker? You're saying, women's tournaments will bring out more players. But like you, for example, what's the first thing that's on your mind when you're playing with like 7 other guys at the table? And second part, have you ever had that experience when somebody belittled you, a man belittled you at the table?
Oh yeah, and I would love to call that person out. That's the person I'm going to call out. So yeah,
Bang bang.
I think the thing
It was me.
Send it.
Yeah, I think the thing that makes people or women a little bit fearful is when you're with a bunch of men, you see how they've acted on social media. You see how like things that they said. Like if I go on a sports post right now, you go to any sports post, and if the NBA post is about the WNBA, go in the comments. Everything's about, oh, they should be in the kitchen. Like you see that kind of stuff, and it's still real. So when you go, and by the way, it's a lot of older men that are usually playing, and those men have even more of those kind of viewpoints. It's a little bit uncomfortable because you just feel like people are thinking a certain way about you, even if they're not saying it. And it just, I think, makes people uncomfortable. Now, I personally don't care, but I also kind of perceive myself a little bit different than most women. Like I'm not as like girly and things like that. So I think maybe it's a little bit easier for me. I've also grew up with just my dad in the household. So I'm not as, I think it's a little bit different for me. But as far as have I experienced it, I have. I will preface that I think a lot of people at Hard Rock are great people, but I definitely have experienced it. There's one person that I would love to call out because I think it's just extremely uncalled for this person, who is well known, by the way, at Tampa, to have berated me multiple times at the poker table when I've never spoke to this person in my entire life. And that's, I'm going to say Frank Weasel, because I think he's a weasel, but Frank Weagle, whatever his name is. We all know who he is, right?
Shout out to Frank.
Yeah, shout out.
I gotta Google him.
Bang bang.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course I know Frank. What was was it an isolated incident or?
Well, we were playing 2-5. Again, I didn't even know who he was at the time. I've never spoken to him in my life. We were playing 2-5. I was running good. I like to think I was playing well as well, but I was probably running better than playing good. And I think he just couldn't handle seeing a woman stacking chips, or I don't really know what was wrong with him, but he just started like making comments every pot I won. He started laughing, pretty much just saying, I just run so good, it's unbelievable, like out loud in front of the entire table. And I've never spoke to him in my entire life. I didn't say a word to him. I was actually, I think, texting Nicole about the interactions, and he was like, oh, you're taking pictures of me. And I showed my phone. I go, dude, you're not that relevant. I promise you, I'm not taking pictures of you. So yeah, he just kept going on and on and on. That was one interaction. Maybe he had a bad day, although that doesn't excuse his, actions. But then a couple weeks later, I go play 2-5. I get called to a table. I get called to like table 5 or 6. I see him at table 1. There's an open seat right next to him. I said, great, free money. I'll go to that table instead. So I sit right next to him because I did it on purpose, because I personally don't care. And of course, I start running up a stack again. I think I'm playing well, but I'm probably running even better. And same thing, he's just laughing. And this time it's worse, saying, it's unbelievable. I better never play poker for a living. I'd be homeless. I would never make it in tournaments. Obviously, he didn't know that I'd play tournaments. I would never make it in tournaments. I'm horrible. I suck. Just all these things. Wow. I eventually stuck up for myself and said something. And I don't remember what I said, but pretty much told him off. Like, I've never spoke to you a day in my life. I don't really understand what your issue is. But I bring up that scenario, one, because I think that behavior is extremely uncalled for. So I want everyone, whoever watches this, to know how he acts. But 2, in both of those instances, not a single person said anything. Not a player, not a dealer, nobody said anything. And I think that's part of the issue. And people need to say something. Like, if you're a man at a table, stop that behavior. Like, I think that is part of the issue.
Most people are bystanders. I see it on TV every day. Somebody is being stabbed on the street and people take their phone, and like where I'm from, people get involved right away. They see 2 people fighting, they get involved. Here, they're afraid of lawsuit. My first instinct, if I see something like this, is intervene. If I'm seeing a fight with 2 friends, I'm going to intervene. Like what happens in school. I'm sorry, I went off, but what happens in schools here, 2 kids will be fighting. Everybody's filming. Nobody's intervening. I don't understand that behavior. What is break them up. My first instinct is to break. So same at the table. When I see somebody abusing somebody else, I'm going to say something, whether it's a dealer or a player. Everybody should do the same. Okay, Frank, let's talk about Frank. Frank, when I first met him, he was drinking at the table, loud. I hated him. Now we're best friends. I love Frank. He, we have respect for
Oh,
each other. Why that
sorry.
happened with you? No, I mean, I think now, like every time I see him at the table, he can come off like this, but I don't know if he just hated you from that first incident, and it's a little out of line, of course, especially you're a girl with 7 other guys at the table. It's intimidating, of course. I don't know why he did that. Maybe we should get him on and get you on and solve it with a heads up. Maybe you guys can play heads up at TGT in the coming and kind of like
What a bad
Negrano
deal for
Polk,
him.
kind of like the Negrano Polk or Landon Tyson Becker. You guys can duke it out at the table. Let's move on with the question. We went off the rails with this one.
I think
Lana,
there's a ton of women in the casino. Like when I just walk through and go to like a restaurant or something, there's like a ton of women just like at slots or like just gambling in the casino. It's not like women don't like to gamble that much, I don't think. But yeah, for some reason they don't come to the poker room. Yeah.
Can I
okay,
add
Lana,
to that?
why
Or-
do you think?
okay.
Why do you think, from your perspective,
Uh-huh.
more
We need
women
hot
don't
young
play
men.
poker? So that's a
Hot
good
guys.
point. That's a good point that Shane brought up. That women do gamble,
Yeah.
but like slots, it's not intellectual. You're not sitting against.
Yeah.
It's you and that machine. It's not challenging. Poker is challenging even for us guys. Like every time you sit down, you don't know what to expect. You have to take the beats. It's risky. There's money involved. But let's hear it from Lana. What's your perspective on it?
So I think it's a lack of knowledge, right? So when I'm at work and all my clients know that I play poker for like a hobby, and they know I'm really into it. And the women, they have a lot of misconceptions of what poker is. I would say the number one question that they'll ask me when I say I play poker, they're like, "Oh, so do you count cards?" Right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah, I get
typical
that a lot.
question, yeah.
I'm like, that doesn't play into it. And then the next one will be like, "Oh, well, I can't play because I don't have a good poker face." And I go, "Well, that's not really a thing either." I think it's a lack of knowledge about the game. I think for me personally, and I don't know if Ashley, you were the same way, you talked about your background, like I played games as a kid, like a lot of card games, just like a deck of cards was in my hand quite a bit as like a kid. So I'm drawn to games. But then also I have a competitive, as Ashley, you said that you're competitive too. I think you need that as well. And not that women aren't competitive, they are. But I think you need those two things. You need to be competitive. You need to like gaming, and then not be afraid to sit at a table with men. It's getting better. There are more and more women coming to the table. When I first started playing, there was not that many, and it's grown for sure. We still have a long ways to go, but I think it's just a lack of knowledge. And for me to sit down at a table with all men, I love it. Like I rather sit with 7 other men at a table than
Me
have
too.
like other women at the table, because that's who you're going to play against most. That's why I'm not entirely favor for ladies tournaments, because that's not real life, right? You're not playing
That's a good point.
in that demographic routinely. If it's a good way to get people in, that's fine. But I don't necessarily know if that does that. I think what would get people in more so is like a class, something that's going to like educate people. Like if, say you're at the Hard Rock and they're like, okay, we're going to offer this like class down in the poker room, women only. I think that will benefit the poker community more.
You know what? You
yeah.
just came up with a business idea. You should start one.
Well, so funny enough, I have a good girlfriend of mine. I've known her since middle school, and we will text back and forth about like sports betting and like different things. And I've been telling her about poker, and she really wants to learn. So I'm actually going to teach a class. Don't laugh, because to them I look like a genius, a poker
course.
genius.
No, you have a lot of experience to teach somebody.
Yeah.
Why not? Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to teach a class. It's going to be like 6 to 8 women. And I think that will, hopefully if that's how I learned. Like if one person gets really drawn to it and they start coming to the casino, then I've done my job.
Are you getting paid for it?
Nope. I'm going to do it because I really want my friend to start playing, and she owns a cafe. So she's going to have it at her cafe. So,
there's a YouTube guy I watch. He has like a poker channel, and it's nothing about poker. It's everything outside of the strategy. So he just like lives in casinos and just talks about dynamics of poker. He plays in casinos where there's only like 1 or 2 1-2 games playing, like just low volume. But he said in one of his videos like last week that they had like on Tuesdays, they just had a class like how to play poker in the casino. And they would I like this idea. They would seat like 9 players, and they would teach them how to play. And
Yeah.
after an hour, when like the play was done, they let them all play at that table together, like free rake for like
Yeah.
1 hour or 2 hours.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like on top of the class, they all got to like play against each other and actually do it for free for like an hour or so.
Yeah.
You
I
know
like the
what? You
idea.
guys came up with a business idea now. Let's all four of us. I'm dead serious.
Okay.
We pick a location.
Okay.
We advertise it on Facebook. We have a lot of following, and it'll be mixed strategy and mixed lifestyle. And you guys can bring your perspective on how to bring women, and it'll be for women and men. I'm thinking about a location. I mean, we can do it at TGT. It'll be good at a poker room.
Yeah.
You know, we can take the side where they have the bar, like during the week, and charge like whatever 100. It'll be. What do you guys think?
I'm down.
I'm always down.
All right,
That'd be fun.
we'll work on that offline. But next question is from Nicole Renee. Shout out to Nicole. She's one of the toughest players out there. Looking forward to this. Well said, Nicole. No question, just a comment. Chat Kitchen. Also a comment. About time.
I
She's
think
a
Nicole
beast.
did have a question. Don't ignore Nicole's question because she'll get you. Because I know she asked a question. She told me.
Oh, I'm just going. I'm going through them in order.
Oh, maybe it's that later then. Okay.
Yeah. Chad says it's about time. She's a beast. This
Shout
is
out to Chad.
Nicole's
I love
question. Question is most overrated player. First part. Second part is. Why are you guys laughing?
He said overrated
Toughest.
or underrated?
Most overrated player. Question
Someone
mark.
said that?
No, she's asking who does Ashley think is the most
Okay.
overrated player. Bang bang.
Me.
Toughest player? Question mark.
Okay.
Third part and your favorite. So let's start with first part. Most overrated player.
Well, I'll say this. I think there's actually a lot of people at Tampa that are overrated. It's funny, you know, I watch your podcast, Carl, and when you get to the question of like, oh, who do you think are the toughest players in Tampa? Some of the people that are listed, like, I literally laugh out loud. Like, not to be mean, but I really do. I know. But I think people see someone that's a regular and they're like, they must be good. They go there all the time. Like, that doesn't make them good, in my opinion. So I think there's actually a lot of people. I'll give you one name just because this person irks my nerve. And I think it's fine because he knows that he irks my nerve, and that's Will. Doesn't stop talking, and he's also tried to come at me before.
Yo, I was eating
so-
with Will a couple days ago. Yeah,
Well-
Will. Shout out to Will Thornton.
Yeah, he irks my nerve. So I'll say Will is most overrated. He's there all the time, and Minkash is barely. So I'll say him. I'll leave it at that. I know.
Toughest.
He knows why I'm coming for him. So if he listens to this, he knows why I'm coming for him. He
Yo,
tried to
we're gonna
come for
have
me.
Will to be able to fire back.
Rebuttal.
Rebuttal
right.
time. Yeah, toughest.
Toughest, I actually created a list because I told you, Carl, I'm very bad with names. So I had to go look at some names because
Let's
I
hear
was
it.
like, I'm not going to be able to know anyone's names. Now, all three of you genuinely actually are on my list. So I'll obviously go past you guys, but all three of you guys are on my list. I have Ken O'Donnell. I think he's great. I know we've talked about him a little bit, but Jacob Newman, I think he's a really good player. I actually think and I told her this, but I think probably in my opinion, the best player, one of my favorite female players in the scene is Jen. I love the way she plays. I think she's a great player. So she's on the list.
Shout out to
Clyde's
Jen.
great.
She was supposed to co-host this too, but we're gonna get her on a different podcast. Yeah, she's capable for sure. Who's that? Who else?
Got Clyde. I think Nicole's a great player. Gabe, Curtis. I put Jason Block on here, and then I put ... questionable because sometimes I see some things he does, and I'm like, I don't know. But then other times I'm like, okay, like whatever. So I put him. Ryan Hogan, obviously we all know he's great. Aaron, Ray, I think Ray's good. Chad, he's good. That's just to name a few. But in my opinion of what
Ray
makes
Mancini.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for my definition of what makes someone a good player is someone who can get out of line. Like, are you going to check raise the flop with a gut shot, or are you going to check raise the flop with backdoors? Can you turn a pair on the river into a bluff? Can you check raise the river with nothing? If you aren't doing those things, then I likely don't see you as a good player.
That's a very good point, and I'll tell you why. Because you're not relying on making hands, and
Correct.
the times you run good, you build a stack, and the times you run bad, your game is shit. Because
Correct.
in tournament poker, you have to win pots that you have no business winning. if you're not doing that, you're not building stacks and you're not going deep. That's a very good point, by the way. That's a solid list. I agree with it. What do you think? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think all of them. Jason,
Lana,
I'm kind of homies with. I've driven him around to casinos sometimes, but he drinks too much for sure. He's like drinking at a table and
I don't know who that is.
bad things.
Jason Block.
But
you know the face.
he plays
he looks like
online a
someone
lot.
that's been in the sun too long. But I think some of the things he does is creative, which again, which is what I appreciate. I like creativeness. If you can't be creative, then I don't think I'm not gonna.
He just plays online. He plays heads up sit and goes, one-on-one sit and goes. He plays them just all day, just one-on-one
Interesting.
poker. You buy him for like 50 or 100, and he plays them on global poker. He's up, I don't know, like 200K on like just those. So I don't know how much of it translates really well to like a tournament with 8 players where there's like ladders and stuff. But if you got heads up with him in a tournament and he offered a chop, I would take it for sure. He's good at one-on-one poker.
Interesting. And then as far as favorite player, local, it's Nicole. Like I said, she's my poker little bestie.
Lana, this is Jason.
I know, but I'm on my phone, so
it's second from the right, white flannel shirt.
Yeah, I can't blow it up from here, can I? Know. Oh, I can. Oh, I can blow it up. Hang on.
He always has a hat on.
Yeah.
Looks always sunburnt.
Looks familiar?
No, he doesn't.
He plays weekends mostly.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. But then for favorite player, locally, Nicole, professionally, Adrian Mateos and Kristen Fox. Those are my 2 favorite players.
I haven't seen Nicole much lately. She's still playing a lot?
Kristen? Yeah, she plays like poker
Nicole,
and all.
sorry.
Oh, Nicole. Yeah, but she plays a lot in Daytona.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
She lives in Orlando, so it's a hike for her to come to Tampa.
Yeah. Gotcha.
David Sweely, what's your thoughts on Jimmy Butler's behavior this year? Second part, are you glad he's gone from your Heat?
Yeah, obviously this is not a sports podcast, so I'll keep it super short. I'm a huge Miami fan. Lana, I told Carl, I was like, I don't know about Lana. She's a Bills fan. I don't know if I my dad, I'm sure my dad's gonna watch this. He's also a Bills fan, but yeah, boo Buffalo. But anyways, I'm a huge Miami fan. It hurt. It was really painful. He was obviously a huge player for us, but I'm glad he's gone because he wasn't contributing anything with him sitting out. So yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Nicole responds. She said she gets Wiggins. We were just texting about this. LOL.
Yeah, from the Warriors.
Shane Dellis. What does the meaning bring violence to the poker table mean for you, Ashley Spring? Bringing violence to the table.
It's an inside
you obviously
joke.
Think you're violent.
No, it's an inside joke between me, him, and Nicole because the tournament I got the 150,000. Going into day 2, we met up before. We're like, all right, guys, we're gonna bring the violence, and they like joke around like, oh, only one of us brought violence because I got third. But yeah, just an inside joke.
Kathy Johnston, shout out to Kathy. Is she the one that used to be a Hard Rock dealer or no? You never dealt at Hard Rock.
No, wrong one.
Then she said, okay, then I'm thinking of someone else because I responded. I said, you never dealt there. Willie Muhammad said, she is good for real, though. I said, yeah, for real, for real. Speaks the truth. Shout out to Georgie Ferrer, supervisor and dealer at TGT. Just puts 3 fire emojis. No comment, no question. Rashad Cook. Rashad says, are you a beast? ? If so, what part of your game makes you that?
Yeah, I don't know if he's asking that with the intent of saying that I'm not a beast. I don't really know.
No,
maybe
I don't think there's ill intentions there because first of all,
he's a jokester.
I think nobody should ask somebody if they're a beast because we know in poker you should never judge. You should be judged by others.
Yeah.
But let's.
I think it's a weird question to ask because I've never said out loud that I think I'm a beast. I've never said that to anyone in my life. I
said it, but he's asking you if you. I said you're a local beast in the caption.
Yeah. I think what people would say about me, because again, I don't really like to talk about my own game, but I think people would just say I'm able to put them in tough spots. I think a lot of female players play a little bit ABC at poker at times. I don't. I am not scared to put money in with 5-high. I've been called plenty of times with 5-high, by the way, but I just think I'm just not scared to put money in. And I just don't play ABC poker. I think
that's why you're on this podcast. We don't get
can,
ABC players.
I can attest to this with Ashley. Like, what was it, the 400 that we just played in this last series on day
Mhm.
2?
The
I got moved to your table. And I probably wasn't even there in orbit before a table broke. And I don't remember the action, but you were involved in a hand with a guy where you just like shipped it in his face. And yeah, I mean, he folded, and it was like for a lot of chips, and he folded, and I was just like, I'm not going to tangle with her. I mean, I played with you before a couple of times.
Yeah.
And I would say out of all the female players, like I thought about this before coming on here. Like, there's not many female players that I get intimidated by now. Like in the past, for sure. I would say I'd probably still stay out of your way.
Oh, thank you.
Appreciate
Was there a showdown when she shifted in that?
No
showdown.
I think he had bet, she had called, he C bet. You might have called again, and then he might have bet big, and she just shifted in his face, and he folded like a cheap suit. It's gone.
Oh, damn.
I have no idea what
I
you
actually
had,
remember
or
that
I don't
hand.
even remember the hand.
Yeah, I actually think I had it. I thought he was someone I played with before. I've spent a lot of money at Hard Rock creating an image. I never have anything, so I typically get paid off in a lot of spots. Someone
Yes.
folded bottom set to me, by the way, in this tournament we just had. It was unbelievable. I will never let that go. You know how much money I've spent to create an image here at Hard Rock? And the flop was like 7-6-4, 2 diamonds, and it was a woman. She bet out huge, and I'm like, she has a hand. I had middle set, and I just shipped it for like piles, and she tanked and folded a bottom set. She goes, I think I have the best hand. I just don't want to gamble. And I'm like,
Fuck.
I spent
Oh my
all this
God.
money at Hard Rock to create an image. You're folding bottom set to me. What's wrong with you?
Terrible result.
I know.
Chad Kitchen responds to Rashad. He says, fearless at the table, no matter who's there. Thinks through hands played and opponents. Fundamentally strong. I love her play at the table. He's just giving you credit. Mad credit.
That was going to be one of my questions to you, is that you definitely exude, like, you have no fear. You exude no fear. Where do you think that like comes from? Is it just confidence? Is it like, how do you, like, I mean, it's one thing to play and play well, but like, you just don't have fear. Like, where does that come from?
Yeah, I think part of it is, again, I grew up with just my dad in the household. I grew up in sports my entire life, so I have one older brother, so I'm used to playing with, like, being around guys, like playing with the boys. I used to go play pickup basketball with just boys, so that's something I'm used to. So I'm not intimidated by any man at the table. And then I just try to make the right play. Like, I'm there to win chips, and I'm not going to do it by squeaking in the money with one big blind and then go home for the day. Like, I just am not going to play that way. I'm there to either earn chips or go home.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just try to make the right play. If I don't think the person's going to call or I think they have a marginal hand, like, I'm going to put the chips in and I live with the result. Doesn't mean I always make the best play, but I just try to make what I think is the best play in the moment and not think about the money.
Next, Nicole comments on Chad. She said, I so agree. She's tougher than any male. LOL. Shots fired there.
Yeah, I don't know about
She
any
said,
male,
you're
but yeah.
tougher than any male. Rashad responds, and let me preference, I think he means preface. And let me preface this when I say it's not a knock on her. I just want to know what part of her game she thinks makes her a beast, because I never played with her but once.
We played twice, actually. I'm very good at actually remembering who I've played with and hands I've been in. We played twice, but that's beside the point.
Georgie writes 100, 100, 100. So he agrees with Chad that you're tougher than any male, or everything Chad says. Last question from Bluff Catchers. Do you guys know who that is? It's a page on Facebook.
No.
Bluff Catchers. He said, wow, I don't know she was getting it in like that. Fire emoji. I don't know who that is.
I don't know.
Last question actually is from Jen. She asked it today when I talked with her, and she told me to ask you that question. She said, okay, excited for this one. I have a question you can ask her. I know she's not full-time player, I don't think, in parentheses. She said, so how does she utilize the time that she has to study the game? First question. And then if she does at all, what resources does she use? I think we covered that one, but you can go ahead and...
Yeah, I don't use solvers. Again, what I do is I honestly just watch a lot of poker. Poker Go, I'm subscribed to that. If you're not and you're someone who enjoys poker, I would definitely recommend it. It's not that expensive. I watch a lot of live streams, although a lot of are crappy players on there. I think there's always something to learn, like cool spots, like, oh, that was kind of cool. Like you can always take something away. Vlogs, I'm a huge fan of Mariano. I don't know if anyone watches him, but I kind of like the way that he thinks about the game, the way he analyzes the game. I'm a fan of. But yeah, just watching, that's really my form of studying. And I also like talking about hand histories, watching at the table what people do. I try to, like, I just take stuff away, honestly. So I'm sure some of the things I do are GTO approved, but I'm not doing it because I'm looking at a solver. I'm just doing it because I think it's the best play in the moment.
Right.
Ashley, what do you enjoy more? Do you enjoy tournaments more than, because you say you play 2-5 too? Like how much are you playing? Like how much cash are you playing? How much tournaments? Which one you like better?
I think I prefer tournaments just because it's a different feeling, right? When you run deep into a tournament, there's like a different adrenaline. I like that there's a little bit more strategy. Cash, some players will just sit there and like wait for like aces and kings. But I do also play cash. Like I know Carl, like you're strictly tournaments for the most part. I do both. I only really play 2-5. I don't do 1-2. I don't enjoy playing bingo. So I try to stick to 2-5 for my own, sanity. But I prefer tournaments. If there's a good tournament, like I'm going to play that. And if I get knocked out, I'll go play cash.
Last question is from Lee Betts. Shout out to Lee. He's got the blog. Yeah. When is she going to start the poker vlog? This is on Instagram.
That's funny. Him and I talked about that a long time ago. I thought I've always wanted to, just because I think it's interesting. I think it's cool, but like I ain't got the time for that, and it's very difficult. I don't even know if you're allowed to film at Hard Rock. I don't think you are. So yeah, you would have to get special permission. I don't have the editing skills, so it's never gonna happen. But he has a poker vlog. I know. So
his vlog's great.
You can hire him to edit because that's what he does professionally.
That is true.
Yeah. Okay, I have some rapid. We said we're gonna wrap this up at the hour. It's going longer than an hour, but I'm enjoying it, so we're gonna go full time.
Sure. Do it.
I have some rapid, fun questions, and we're gonna wrap it up by talking about what's happening locally in the tournament scene and what you guys think. I have some takes on what's going on locally. We're gonna talk shit there. If you could have dinner with a poker legend, who would it be?
Ooh, a poker legend. I know this is like probably a dumb answer but I just really enjoy Kristen Fox, and I don't know what it is, but like I watch her in all her tournaments. Like me and Nicole are always texting while she's playing, like, let's go, Kristen. So I'd probably pick her. I really enjoy her game. I think she's aggressive, but I also just like how she handles herself at the table. Yeah, I like everything about her, honestly. So I'd probably pick Kristen just to pick her brain and like talk to her, honestly.
I like it. Lana.
I'm a big Mateos fan.
Might be hard to understand him though. I don't know how fluent he is in English.
No,
he's not that fluent.
He's not that fluent, but yeah, I would say this little side note when we were talking about like how you study and you say you watch a lot of poker, that is a good chunk of how like I've studied. And I'm telling, for anyone that's watching this, the Inside of the Mind of a Poker Pro, hands down, one of the best content out there for learning and like learning like why people are doing the things they're doing and the spots that they're doing them. For me, like I'm not good with like looking at charts. I will and I do, but I'm visual. So when I see and I'm explained why something is happening, it really like speaks to me. And I'm telling you, that show has really like helped me immensely, particularly like any episodes with Adrian Mateos.
I've heard that show recommended by like 5 different people, and I haven't touched it yet, but I should.
Antoine Buckley,
he's the best though.
He was on your podcast and he said he watched the Caribbean one, which I've watched that one probably like 10 times. He said he watched it and he went on to win one of the tournaments at the Hard Rock, like right after watching it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great show. Gus Hansen is on the latest episode.
I know, it's trash.
I mean, Gus is not theoretically sound, so I don't know
No,
why
it's
they even
trash.
picked
I
him.
fell asleep. It was I hopefully he'll bust and then they'll put Mateos in.
Yeah, I didn't even watch it yet, but I know
It's
he's
trash.
not. You're not gonna learn much.
No, it's trash.
What's your guilty pleasure when you're not playing poker?
Video games. I do play video games. I also have 3 dogs. If anyone knows me well, they're like my children. I live alone, so they are my children, so I hang out with them a lot. But yeah, and I'm just like really into sports, so that's all I watch. I don't watch TV, I watch sports. Basketball, WNBA, hockey, football, so sports and
Do you
video
sports
games.
bet? Out of curiosity.
Yeah, a little bit on Prize Picks, like $5-10 bets. I don't do anything crazy,
Nothing big.
yeah, nothing crazy. Me and my brother do it. I think it's more of like a bonding thing between him and I. But yeah,
How many siblings do you have, by the way?
just one half brother. We have the same mom, different dad. But yeah,
Older,
he actually
younger?
called me he's older. He called me his stepsister the other day. I'm like, I'm not your stepsister. And he goes, yeah, you are. And I was like, you know, half and step are different, right? And he had no idea. And I'm like, God, him and I are going to Miami at the end of the month. So we'll be at Hard Rock Hollywood, but we're going to not Dolphins. We're going to a Heat and Panthers game.
Last question. What's the one poker term that makes you laugh every time?
One poker term that makes me laugh. You know, the thing that makes me laugh when people said, I would have won the hand, like when like you clearly would never ever be in the hand. Like it's so annoying when people do that. Like, oh, I had 4-6 offsuit, like I would have won that hand. And it's like, why is that relevant?
And they start
like,
telling everybody at the table.
Yeah, like and talking about it over and over and over and over. And it's like, yeah, there's actually a lot of poker things that people do at the table that are just so annoying. That's why I always have headphones in.
Oh, you're like Carl.
Yeah. Honestly, I like when you post your poker pet peeves because so many of them I'm like, yes, like it's so bad. Like
we're not gonna name names, but last time I was at Lana, I was at a table. Lana was
this was awesome.
Seat 4.
This was so awesome. This guy was yakking Carl's ear off about like I wasn't even paying attention, but just finally after about 5-10 minutes.
10 minutes. 10
Yeah.
minutes of nonstop.
Right.
Nonstop, all about him. And
Right.
I don't want to name who it was. Lana's sitting in seat 4. I'm in seat 2. He's in seat 1. You know, when you sit down just to say hello, what's going on in your life for like 2 minutes is fine. But after that, I'm here to make money. I'm here to focus. I like to watch everything happening. So Lana's minding her own business. I'm playing the game, but I don't have headphones on. He starts talking with me about traveling. If I go into details, he'll know who he is.
Yeah.
Some sport he's playing. I mean, just conversation after conversation. And I'm like nodding for 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, nonstop. At the end, Lana, tell him what you heard. What did I say?
So he's going on and on. And then Carl shuts it down. Carl's like, hey, you know, let's focus on this. Like, let's try winning this game and like shut the guy down. It was a little uncomfortable, but it was so beautiful.
It has to be uncomfortable because I'm listening to him, I'm being nice, but after a while, like, how long is this gonna go for the whole 3 levels that we're playing?
It was rare for you to even engage him as long as you did, because usually you already have the AirPods in, and you didn't at that moment. So you said you were in a good mood.
I was in a good mood that day.
Until that guy.
Yeah.
Oh, it was awesome.
Lesson learned: don't be in a good mood when you go to the table anymore.
You know what? I mean, I don't know. It was awkward when I shut him down. I said,
it was perfect.
I almost said his name. I said, we got a job to do here. We got to focus. Yeah. And he kind of like sat back and he's like, okay, I'm sorry. I said, you don't have to be sorry. We have a job to do. So let's wrap it up with what's going on locally. Let's mention TGT. They have a big series coming up. It starts on the 22nd. Are you guys playing it?
Yeah, I'll be at some of them. The ones I can play.
The 22nd. It's I think it's a Saturday. The only problem is it coincides with Hard Rock 300 this month. They have a 300 multi-day. It's on a Saturday, so whoever's trying to bag for that tournament won't be able to make it. But everybody else is. That's the only tournament that coincides with them. Everything else is it's a single day.
I'll be playing the $300 tournament at Hard Rock, but the other ones, the ones that I can make, I'll be playing at TGT for sure. I think the series actually looks pretty good.
Day 2 at Hard Rock is going to coincide with the Stratosphere that they have. They both on Sunday. So whoever's going to make Day 2 is going to miss TGT, unless if they bust, they go to TGT. JD is trying. He's trying hard to fix the tournament scene here. My comment was going to be about Hard Rock. Their April series is literally copy and paste of what happened in the Winter Poker Open.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same. The opener, 700 in the middle buy-in, and then the main event for 1700. One mixed game, I think, in the middle. Literally the same tournament.
Yeah.
I have a lot of questions. We're getting like literally the shittiest tournaments here in the area, while Hollywood is 3 hours away. They have a live stream, around 40 events, 40 different events in every stop. And they keep building that stop. Here we're going backwards. No more ballroom. They're about fighting over the ballroom.
That's terrible.
No creativity. I think all the satellites should be like, that's what Vegas does. All the satellites are landmarks. You reach a certain stack size, you're out. You just get the ticket right away. It's much better format. It ends quicker. It incentivizes people to go for it and not knit it up in a satellites. We should have landmark satellites.
Mm-hmm.
I know Yi has to get the okay from the higher ups, but they're not helping his case at all. Like, he can't change things on his own. He always has to get the okay. I think either Immokalee or Hollywood, I'm not sure. But like, I don't understand why.
Step it up, man. Like I understand like we have small card rooms around here at TGT. I'm not really a fan of Derby, but Derby, Soaks, like they're starting to, especially TGT, starting to put out some like good tournaments, and eventually like they're gonna be running things that are just as good as Hard Rock, which is embarrassing. Like, that's embarrassing for a little card room to be running just as good of tournaments. So they need to like step up their game and start running some things that the players actually want to play. Like, they got to get rid of the little slick. Like, that's just terrible. Like, make it
terrible.
A bigger buy-in. Like, it's like playing in a minefield. It's like Carl, you probably had PTSD from back when you're in the military when going and play little slick. Like, it's just terrible. Like,
it does.
Things like
it does
that.
remind
and I
me
don't
of
play because I have
the
nothing
patrols.
else to do. But like, it's a bad tournament. Everyone says it, so why do they keep doing it? But yeah, they need to get like better tournaments for sure.
100%. Day 2s should always be 40 minutes. Day 2, 30 minutes on day 2 is terrible, because some hands last like 10 minutes. The pots are bigger. There's more chips in every pot. Decisions take longer. So you're playing like maybe average like 10 hands every level. It's turbo. It's super turbo. Day 2s should always be 40 minutes. Like, shout out to Silks and TGT. All their day 2s are 40 minutes, which is standard. And just get more creative and get us the ballroom or build another ballroom. I don't know what the solution would be.
The ballroom thing is ridiculous. Like, that is crazy. The other thing that really ticks me off about Hard Rock, and I experienced this in the 1700 that we just played, we were playing three-handed for like multiple levels. Like, that's, and I understand someone busted. We did originally have 4, but like, come on, I spent $1,700 to play three-handed, and we're just like going in circles. Like, they open up so many tables so early, and we're all playing 3 or 4-handed. How can I guess I could buy in later, but for people who like to play on time, because that's what I always do in every tournament, I shouldn't have to buy in later to avoid playing 3-handed.
It's a completely different strategy. Now, when you open under the gun becomes cutoff when you're playing 4-handed. It's a completely different strategy. Your ranges are wider. You're just playing a different game. And you don't have to make that big of an adjustment early on in a main event. It should be at least 5-handed, 6-handed. I see your point 100%. I did the same thing. I showed up on time, and we were playing 4-handed, 3-handed the whole time. And you don't want to get stacked early on, like play a big pot when you're playing short-handed, because I don't know. Anyway, we're gonna wrap up this session. It's been fun, guys. Thank you for Ashley. Thank you for coming on. Lana, thank you for co-hosting.
Of course.
Shane, of course, thank you for co-hosting too.
I have a question for you, Carl. I've been wanting to ask you this. Have you ever played a poker tournament without a hat on? I don't think I've ever seen you without a hat.
No, it's part of the attire. Part of the attire.
Like the AirPods.
AirPods.
I've never seen you without a hat.
I don't have AirPods. I have this. They're Sony.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you guys can see them. Way better than AirPods. They're noise canceling, and I can't hear any stories from similar to what happened. But yeah, but the hat, it's a staple. It's my lucky hat.
Fair. Fair. Absolutely.
All right.
Good chat.
See you at the tables.
Carl, see you guys.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Thank you for having me on.
Of course. It's been a pleasure.